Alright, so I am going to be sculpting Exodia, the Forbidden One, or at least attempting to sculpt. Whether this is successful or not is still yet to be seen, but I have gotten a bunch of images from Google for a reference here, and then I'm going to take some liberties myself. So let's go ahead and get started with the head. And step one is to enable dynamic topology, of course, and then I'm just gonna notice how there are only like 2 polygons per side of the cube. We're just going to go ahead and give this some more resolution here. It's very useful. And then I'm just going to sort of start sculpting the head into shape. So he's got a pretty narrow head. He's kind of a freak. I'm not going to be able to finish this tonight, of course. This is just starting. We'll finish it later. But let's go ahead and just get a decent shape down for the head. And it's also usually pretty good when working on sculptures to use the matte cap. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on matte cap here. And I like the skin one. That shows pretty good detail. Okay, so starting to get the head here in a decent sort of shape. We're going to take a little bit more of a real approach to him proportion-wise. So I'm going to go ahead and give him some jawbones here using the crease tool. Yeah, it should be somewhat decent. I think that his jawbones need to come out a little bit further. And this is what sculpting is. It's all about looking at reference and making it work. Okay, so getting a good idea of where his teeth start, let's go ahead and change the dynamic topology detail size down. And I guess I'm just going to sort of start to sculpt out where his mouth is going to be. Somewhere like that-ish is a good starting area, I suppose. And this is just really low detail, getting an idea of where stuff is going to go. So that's sort of where the mouth is going to end up. Which means that the eyes and this thing right here is going to end up like right here. This is sort of the same way that I did the Pokemon 2. I just sort of winged it until I got something that I liked. I've been watching a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Lately purely for nostalgia purposes, so I figured why not do some Exodia. He's pretty neat. He's a cool design. Yeah, so get the mouth here all right, and then within this mouth, within this area, there is another mouth, which actually is the lips, and then he has teeth. So we'll go ahead and crease that as well. And I think I'm just going to turn this into a statue. I'm not going to retopologize or texture it or anything. But yeah, just sort of sculpt out the general shapes. And then I feel like this should all sort of be caved in since it's where his teeth are. His teeth should be further in than his lips. So we'll just sort of cave that in a bit. Then we can sort of just draw temporary teeth here. We can always come back and detail them up later after we get better proportions and stuff. It's always good to do like really fine detail last. I want to make sure this is pretty centered. And that'll be the upper teeth. We can actually lower the detail here again to get some higher detail teeth. Again, this is sort of the same way that I did the Pokemon sculptures, just really fast, quick, and dirty technique-wise. Probably not the best way to handle things, but it works for our purposes. Alright, and it looks like this can have more dramatic angles, and we have mirroring on, so that's pretty cool. There we go. And I'm just sort of looking at the head and trying to get a general idea of where stuff goes. We can always change the topology count later. Gonna go ahead and drag that down just to make that shape, because this is sort of like a weird shape kind of thing. Uh-oh. Lag. Ha, this is the problem with having a terrible computer. There we go. Okay, and then now we're going to start working on the eye area. So we're going to sort of, we can up the detail back to 15 here. Nope, no tablet. I just use mouse and keyboard, and that works great for me. I've tried using tablets in the past. Like, I was forced to use a tablet in my sculpture class in college, and tablets and I just don't really get along. I've been using a mouse and keyboard longer than I've been using a pen. And Blender is very hotkey based. It's much easier to use without a tablet than something like ZBrush. ZBrush, I did most of my sculpting class in college without a tablet. Like whenever the teacher wasn't looking, I just used the mouse and keyboard, which was probably frowned upon. I don't know if he ever knew. I think I got an A in that class. It was either an A or a high B. But regardless, we're starting to get sort of a mouth shape there. Looks like the eyes sort of come up into this sort of shape. Okay, yeah, so we want to sort of cave in where the eyes are just because that's general topology. Yeah, I just can't get the hang of a tablet. It's awkward to me. Oh man, this is so creepy looking with these like super crazy eyebrows. Just sort of working out the shapes here. Ha ha ha. I'm gonna sort of clay some stuff back in. The brushes that I mainly use are the brush, clay every once in a while. Clay strips is useful for detailing stuff up, like adding volume and stuff. Smooth, of course, just hold down shift. And then I use the crease all the time. Like, that's super useful. Let's see here. Okay, so then we sort of got this head area coming out from his cheeks, so I think we can actually push this up a little bit further and start to sort of bring out that area. Just sort of like this. That looks funny. But yeah, that could work if we just sort of bring it down. We can always fix the topology later, of course. Messy, messy, messy. We just want to get general shape of things. Sort of draw in here, add some more clay. I'd like to get a decent start on the head tonight. Maybe go for like an hour or so. For anybody that's watching, which usually is nobody, and that's totally cool. I do this for me. Sort of get that shape there. And that looks like it sort of actually protrudes out like that. Yeah. Okay. So we wanna push this out so then we can create stuff later. Using the crease brush is a really good way to get nice hard edges. That's a bit too much, so you can just sort of grab that in. It's a lot of trial and error when you're sculpting something for the hell of it without any real reference. Reference is key for everything you do, by the way, but you should probably know that. Okay, so then that sort of comes back up here. We can just sort of start to create shapes back here. And proportionally, this looks wrong. It looks like it needs to go much further back, much higher. That's alright. It's all about pushing it and pulling it until you get it right. Cool. Now we're kind of almost getting somewhere. He's actually different in these drawings. I guess we can pick and choose whatever we want. It looks like the center actually is further down. And then comes out. So we've got some pieces that come out here. And from that, we've got some pieces that we got two pieces that actually come up higher. And we're just trying to get the general shape down right now. Like, we can easily fix that later. And the nose, I'm gonna go ahead and sort of tighten that up a bit. Using the crease tool to get nice hard edges. Smooth it out some, get it nice and flat, and use the reverse crease tool to sort of get a corner there. And grab tool to make it a bit thinner. We'll come back later and detail it up with some hard lines and stuff. So then that actually, I think this is wrong. I don't think this is Exodia. I think this is sort of like a different version of him. And then these ones are like the official, which I think he still has a little loopy thing. So we'll go ahead and sort of add that. It's like a snake. He's got a snake on his head. So I'll just sort of drag that out like so. And we can use the inflate tool. And just to sort of make this, like, we can again come back. This is going to be like a full body figurine kind of sculpture. It doesn't even have to be that detailed. But we can go ahead and give this guy a little bit of detail here. That's the beauty of dynamic topology. Can sort of bring you out. Add some eyes. Add a bit of a mouth. This is an angry snake. Nobody's even going to get close to this, so it doesn't matter a whole lot. But we can go ahead and add the face part there, and then we'll use this to add like a tiny outline for the body. Alright. So, then we're going to come in here and just sort of add clay until it starts to melt. Probably turn this up to 15 again and change this to subdivide collapse. Okay, what subdivide collapse does for anybody that cares is, oh, here we go. Now we're starting to get a headdress sort of thing. Yeah. Can bring you down some. Bring you in some. We're going to have to create the chin detail here. So this is sort of where the head ends and the headdress begins. Alright, if we zoom out super far, it looks alright. It's really difficult to sort of tell what kind of geometry this is from just a couple drawings. It would be nice to have a full turnaround, but I don't think there is one available of Exodia. So we're going to work with what we got. Sort of wing it, make our own design. Sort of bring this back. That is lowering the topology a bit too much, which is totally cool. Maybe give him a bit more of a forehead. This is going to be a lot of artistic freedom here. And it looks like This comes out like pretty far, like a few times the head, so this needs to come out much further. And we're getting somewhere. Thank goodness for dynamic topology. We will change this down to 10 just so we don't lose any detail, but then sort of clean it up a little bit by subdivide collapse. Alright, then we can start to add detail back in. Change this just to subdivide. And bam! Sort of add this nice groove back here. Change you back up to 15. Try to figure out where this goes. Oh yeah, so this whole thing looks like it depresses a bit, so we're going to change to clay and sort of just depress it. If it's depressed, it's going to start drinking. That's looking pretty swell. I just haven't updated. I probably should. I haven't really kept up with that. I just sort of use whatever. I figure if I type responses, it's much faster, which I can't do when I'm playing games because I'm not at the computer when I'm playing games, but when I am sculpting, I can see responses and type responses, which is pretty cool. Okay, so we can sort of groove that back. And this looks like it needs to actually go out. Smooth that. Sort of zoom in here. Make that groove more pronounced. Oh, then this needs to also come from here. So this groove actually sort of comes in there. And then this one, we can use reverse crease now to sort of bring that out. And from the front it looks alright, but from the sides it's still an absolute disaster. Alright, but we're getting somewhere. This isn't looking too shabby. Sort of fill this in a bit, smooth it out some. Then, looks like we can sort of, okay, so this does sort of come down. So you can sort of just sort of make that edge. Come back, and now I'm gonna start. I sort of like work on one thing, then work on another thing randomly. Now I'm gonna start working on the face a little bit, and it looks like his cheeks can come out some, his jaw can come in some. And this looks like this sort of like brings out the headdress down here. And this line comes down to this bottom corner, which we will then work more on in 3D space soon. Just gotta get the lines right. We can create sort of that line there, just sort of a detail line. Turn this back to 10, the face needs good detail. Sort of add some corners here. You sort of crease it in a little bit. Sort of smooth this out some. But it's actually starting to look like something now, so that's pretty cool. We can add the relief here by making a big crease. And that'll give us the detail we are looking for. This needs to be straighter up in here. And we can sort of smooth this out. Drag it into shape. And this probably needs to be dragged back some. You can use the clay brush to sort of subtly push and pull the relief to make it make sense. And now we're getting somewhere. That is pretty nifty. I think we're gonna need to define this a bit more. So I think some sharp edges would look really cool. I never really see the back of his head or anything, but this is sort of where the shoulder pads are gonna come in. So I think that just sort of making this a hard edge where this sort of cuts off would be cool. We might change that later, we might not. It's whatever. And we can come in here, now that we're at 10, and add a little bit more detail. Like, these edges need to be defined. Having nice, clean edges, as I say as I'm wrecking this, is pretty important in good sculpture. It's all about clean line. And it's not all about clean line. That's a big part of it. Clear silhouette and clean line are important. I'm going to go ahead and save because this is looking pretty sweet. Go ahead and harden up this edge right here where his eyebrow is. Sort of grab that down to make it sort of sharper. Then add a bit of a crease here. From the front it's looking pretty cool. Generating the rest of the body is going to be crazy. Sort of sharpen this up a little bit. It's tough to get really sharp, crisp edges when you're sculpting, especially with dynamic topology. I think we can overall sort of bring this in and give him more depth in his head. Sort of smooth that out. Cool. That's looking pretty cool. After we get all the shapes and stuff down, we'll go back and add like some nice crackled detail, make him look all ancient and stuff. But for now, go ahead and generate that eye. And we're gonna make this guy a little bit more realistic, I guess, than the cartoon, and we're gonna give him some actual eyelids, I guess. Oh shoot, that's strong. Sort of just give him some cheekbones here. We'll go ahead and symmetrize from -x to x just so it matches perfectly. The snake can be more of a snake, more like a diamond shape. That's pretty cool. Sort of make the body, add some nice lines since they're there. That's looking pretty cool. Let's go ahead and give him his eyes. So I think we're gonna say that this guy is more of a realistic dude and give him some nice eyelids. Although they don't have to be realistic eyelids, just sort of like that. And the eyelids are gonna, the top always overlap the bottom a little bit. Sort of like that. He looks kind of stoned unless I open his eyes more. So we're gonna go ahead and get that all nice and open. Smooth it out some. Create the shape that we want again. I think he can look angrier. And we can sort of tighten up this line where his eyelid is. And eyes are round, not flat, so we're going to push this in, pull this back some, and we'll push this in, pull this out some, and we'll smooth this out. And that is looking like a pretty cool head. I think we can squeeze this in just a little bit. And we can add this line back in. And other than that, that's looking like a pretty cool start to a head. I guess I can give him that neat chin ornament. Save. Okay, so the chin ornament is going to be kind of difficult. We'll just sort of snake hook it out. Snake hook I use very rarely, but it can be pretty useful. So we'll just sort of draw this out about as long as it goes. Then we'll just grab it up, smooth it out some, grab it into shape. Grab this up, and we'll harden all the edges and stuff later using the crease brush. We're going to do some subdivide collapse just to clean everything up a bit. Subdivide collapse can be really useful for that. Like if you have some really thin edges, it can just sort of even everything up. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and crease out where this starts. This is his nice fancy fake beard. Sort of bring that higher, I think, a bit. And use the crease brush to make it sort of square. And smooth that out. Smooth that out. Yeah, that's looking pretty cool. I am digging this. That whole head jazz isn't in the actual cartoon or anything, so we're going to ignore this guy. Then we are going to sort of bring this out and fake it, because that's what it's all about in the visual effects industry. It's all about faking it. Alright, then we can sort of crease this, like pretend it sort of overlaps, and then draw a little spiral. And we can add more detail to that later. But for now, that will work. This is pretty swell. I am liking this. Not bad. Not too shabby. Let's go ahead and get this shape more correct. I think we can sort of bring this up, bring this in, tighten everything up a bit by adding more polygons. What I'm doing is just sort of adding a corner to the edge just so it's nice and hard crease, and everybody will know it's there. Much better. And I think we could sort of shave a bit off by smoothing this down. And that's looking pretty cool. Not too shabby for a start. I think we can go ahead and add some more lines here. Probably thicken this up too. think we can make the makeup lines a bit sharper here, because this sort of goes down at an angle like that. It's all about putting some love into your sculptures. The small details count. I'm gonna say it's all about all sorts of different things, and it really is. Tons of different steps and things all make out for the final sculpture. Gonna move the 3D cursor out of the way. I think we can sort of clean this up a little bit. Like I said, I want to focus on getting a good head tonight, then do body later. And I'll probably release these videos on YouTube. And it'll be messy, but that's alright. Oh, thanks. Yeah, we'll add more detail once we get a body and stuff eventually. It's gonna be all about adding like cracks and cool stuff to really bring all the detail together and make this a great sculpture. But making something great is very time consuming. So this is definitely going to be a multi-night sort of thing. And there, like I said, we don't really have any reference for the back, so I'm just sort of winging this. But I think it's working out all right. So you're in Canada, right? That probably means it is much earlier time-wise. Like it is 10:24 here. Sort of sharpen up this edge, get everything nice and smoothed out. That's looking pretty good. I'm pretty satisfied with how this is coming along. I think we can sort of bring this up a little bit. Oh man, that is so early. For anybody watching the YouTube video later, I'm talking with this guy in the chat. He's pretty cool. And it is 7:24 where he is, but 10:25 where I am. I wish it was earlier. My day just went like crazy fast. But it's all about pushing and pulling until you get the details right. Oh, see, now that's an ugly edge, so we can just sort of fix that. Alright, now we are getting somewhere. I'll probably turn... Oh, I did not mean to disable that. What I meant to do was change this to subdivide instead of subdivide collapse, just so we don't lose any detail anymore. All right. Now that is neat. That's pretty clean. And we can always clean it up more later. I guess I will go ahead and start working out a body for this guy, which means he needs sort of a neck, which notice that circle sort of insert there. We're going to have to sort of make that pretty prevalent. But starting the body now, I'm going to sort of use the snake hook just to bring some geometry down. Now look at this, we have Exodia on a stick. And then we're just going to sort of add more topology. We can bring this up to like 20 because change this to subdivide collapse to clean it up. Because just to get the basic shape of the body out, we aren't going to need a whole lot of detail. So we can sort of just sculpt this out like so. And his whole head, or body, torso, comes back like this and sort of up behind this whole thing. We just won't show people the back. Yeah, and then his shoulders sort of come out. We're going to save this as a new iteration before we screw everything up. Shoulders sort of come out like this, and they go up much higher. So give this a bit more geometry. Bring this up. Like so. And his shoulders even come back even higher. This guy's like a straight up hunchback, man. And that's giving us some decent geometry to work with here. Let's go ahead and bring the rest of the body down like so. And sort of sculpt, clean it. Oh, nope. See, it started to screw everything up there. And that's why we got to be careful when we have subdivide collapse on. But this body needs to come back. Like so. I'm going to go ahead and post the oh shoot, I'm writing a Facebook status right now to anybody watching this now or later. Alright, so now hopefully people will find this. Alright, so we've got a decent body start. Gonna sort of bring this back even further. This guy needs some serious depth. Smooth it out. This guy has like some serious muscles there. And he's got like this collar thing, so I think we'll work on the collar first. Which sort of, his headdress is getting a little bit in the way here, so we're just gonna sort of bring this back a bit. I'm sure your teddy bear is awesome. What were you working on with Andrew, by the way? Anyway, just sort of sculpt in. Yeah, we got like this fat amorphous blob now. Cool, cool. Just gonna sort of add some more detail back here, or more clay, not really any detail. He's still sort of an amorphous blob. And I'm scared to add this collar. I don't want to screw anything up. Oh, top secret NDA stuff. That's cool. What's up, Box Jockin? I'm not sure who you are. But anyway. Sort of getting this collar in here. Oh, hey Taylor. I'm making Exodia from Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I've been watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Lately for nostalgia purposes. Yeah, getting a nice collar in here. Sort of give him a bit of a neck. Smooth that out some. This is looking pretty cool. Not too shabby. I think I can change this back to like 15. And just sort of sculpting some more detail in here. Like so. Now we got sort of a neat collar. It's a little bit thicker than the one in the actual model, so we can go ahead and sort of try to thin that out using the grab brush. That's pretty cool. We can sort of, we're gonna have to bring the collar all the way around, I think. Like I said, we're working from like a front and like a slight angled view, so not a whole lot of detail here to work from. We're gonna have to make a lot of this up. Change this back to just subdivide edges now. And we're gonna add sort of these shoulder pads now, which are sort of like this. They're gonna come in like so, and they actually sort of protrude over the armor. And they look way cooler than what I just did. Okay, so these sort of look like they come down like this in the actual anime. And then sort of out like this. And up like this. And we can sort of bring that out, that out. And we can sort of just sculpt in some nice detail here, just to get the general shape. We can sort of sculpt this in, just to get some general detail for now. We'll detail it up more later. But we just want to get a good idea of what these are going to look like. Generate the lines for where stuff is going to be. Add detail later. Well, that's looking pretty sweet. We'll add this onk as a separate object later. Alright. Details, details. It's all in the details. Sort of bring this down. He's gonna need some serious pecs, although it looks more like a breastplate than pecs. Like he's got some serious nice six-pack abs there. Which we can sort of make that cut off. It sort of goes muscly, comes down like that, then sort of cuts off. Just make the lines. Add the details later. And I think we can sort of, I mean, just for realism purposes, add in some nice pecs. Like we can sort of make it like a breastplate kind of deal. And I think it's gonna even want to come out wider. Alright, and that's going to give us a decent shape for his torso. That's looking pretty cool. I had no idea how this was going to come out when I started, but I'm pretty satisfied with how this is coming along. I think we can sort of give this a bit more depth, bring it closer to where the arm plates are. And sort of make it all make sense here. And I think that is looking pretty sweet. We can always sculpt more detail back here later. But from a front view, yeah. Although it needs to look cool from a side view too, and right now he just doesn't. That's alright, we'll get there. Sort of depress the plates, make them actually like armor plates instead of these solid blobs. Just give them some sort of an interior so you have a place to bring the arms out of. And then it looks like this sort of comes up, this sort of comes out. I think overall we can sort of bring this out a bit further. Make him real buff. And that's pretty cool. Maybe add a little bit of detail, just like these little spiral things that are on his chest. Let's sort of smooth this out a little bit first, though. Sort of bring this out like where his rib cage ends. Let's actually give him some ribs. Like, he doesn't have real ribs in the show, but it's a poorly drawn anime, so let's just add a little bit of detail here. Sort of bring his rib cage back around to where his spine would be. And then we can smooth it out just to give it sort of a hint of detail. This is sort of starting to get the right shape. Oh, and then turn the detail down some to add these spirals. This is all wrong. We're going to have to push this over. And we're going to have to detail this up more once we have higher divisions. This is just to generate a decent idea, make sure we have the right proportions and everything right now. This is where the ankh is going to be, but we'll model it separately. Just to get a good idea of where stuff is going to go. And it looks like, okay, the collar sort of, this sort of creases off into like its own plate right here. And then we got his six-pack abs, which look totally cheesy. But we'll just sort of draw in where these go and detail it all up later. And then of course the whatever these muscles are called. And it's important to know where the muscles are. It's not necessarily important to know what they're called unless you're trying to relay information to somebody else who's sculpting. And that's pretty important. We can sort of even up these proportions. And now we're getting somewhere. Yeah. It's always going to be good to look at like human reference. So I'm actually going to go ahead and download some human muscle structure stuff to make sure I'm getting this stuff right. Ooh, that's a good image. It's a really good image. Yo, I can't see these images because I have them open in a different window. But I'll download them. That'll be useful. If his arms are in the way. Male muscles. I'm gonna download whatever image I decide to use and plug it into Blender as reference. But this is a lot of the process. Like I'll go to Google to look for reference, and Google Images is like the greatest resource you have at your disposal when sculpting stuff. Let's see. I'm trying to find an image that has like a front, side, and back version. Here we go. This is pretty good. Low res though. Yeah, it's really low res. Search tools, size, large. That should help. I always have good reference and then I lose it. Well, I'll let you all stare at his face since that's better looking while I look for some decent reference. Nope. We want to find like a totally ripped muscle image. Let's see. Muscle anatomy. Oh, you might just have to make do with some not ideal. And this is pretty decent. I'll grab this one. Save it. As documents. Sculpts. No, documents, not downloads. I mean, you all can't see this anyway. Sculpts. Yu-Gi-Oh, Exodia, and we'll just save it right there. So then I'm going to open a second image window and we'll open the anatomy. So this is sort of what muscle anatomy looks like. So we can sort of bring this up, bring this down, sculpt all around. We got these little sort of side muscles here that go below the pecs, which Exodia is all wrong in his anatomy, but I think it's more of a breastplate than anything. So we'll sort of just add the lines as the show would show them. And then sort of round it out down here from the bottom. Then on the back, we'll sort of add some of these lines and smooth them out, almost like armor that sort of follows his anatomy. Smooth this out right here for sure. Can actually probably bring this up some and then make it like a segmented piece, actually bring out the collar that we have coming from down here. So I think the collar definitely needs to sort of be continued up here. Oh, total male anatomy figure. Hey, that's super useful. Thank you. Yeah, that's pretty good. I am going to bookmark this. Thank you. Sort of collar. And this is gonna be like a zoomed out full body render on like a platform, not even textured, because that is not my strongest point. So this doesn't have to be super accurate or super detailed, just close enough. And it needs to not look horribly messy. We could sort of straighten out this edge, make it look like a piece. Sort of add a crease down here. And I think we can sort of bring this in. Like so. Now I've got this sort of headpiece that matches the body a bit better. And this will be pretty cool. And I think it would look cool if we had sort of like a spine sort of detail coming down here. So I'll sort of add like a slight hint of that. And add some lines like they're vertebrae. Smooth it out a bit, just so it's sort of hinted. Add sort of like an extra detail line here, which matches the muscles, but also matches just the general design of Exodia, how he has all these cool lines. Because since we're sort of making up the back, I think matching the front and everything is pretty important too. So you can sort of crease this in a little bit more, then crease out the corners some just to make it a bit more defined. Make it a nice round edge. Sort of crease in like that, crease out here. Smooth everything down, crease in. And yeah, that's pretty cool. That is looking pretty swell. Okay, now for the legs. I would say the arms, but I hate working on arms. Legs are probably actually harder too. I'm actually just going to sort of detail this up, sort of delay the inevitable as long as possible. Maybe not make this an extra object. Maybe make it all one sort of sculpture, almost like a plastic figurine. Sort of like a collectible object that I could get 3D printed later. How cool would that be? Have like a 3D printed Exodia. That would be like the nerdiest thing ever. But hey, not looking too shabby. Let's sort of bring these up. And I think the back we can sort of round out a little bit more by just using the grab brush. Push that in, pull that out. And that's looking pretty cool. We can get finer detail on this. Using the crease brush again to get sort of like a nice metal edge. Funny story, at work I 3D sculpted a coworker's head and they got that 3D printed for something. It's actually like a top secret project, but I mean, none of them are watching this stream. Yeah, there we go. That's looking pretty swell. I'm pretty satisfied with where this is going. When I started, I had no idea how well this was going to turn out. Like, I mean, by no means perfect or anything. I would not give it an A, but it's not half bad either. Can sort of bring this back because he's sort of leaning over in the pose we're going to do. I guess we're going to do a pose similar to this. Sort of have him leaning back. And we'll start on the legs. Maybe do that another night. I'm not sure if I want to. And we can go ahead and get started, I guess. Which, as you can see right here, we have some good reference. That ass. Maybe add some detail here. Get that crease nice and defined for these muscles. Sort of bring out this medallion. Get a good idea of where that's going to end up. Then let's do this. Leg time. I'm going to save this as a new iteration. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm pretty of like stalling as much as possible, just because the limbs are the hard part. Like, if you're doing a real person, getting the face to look like them is the hard part, but if you're just sculpting for fun, getting the limbs is tough. But let's do it. Let's do it. We saved as a new iteration. We can't screw anything up. We'll snake cook it. Out just like that. Yeah, now he has some serious legs. Check out those noodle legs. Getting the leg proportions. Legs take up about half your body generally. Yeah, they take up about half. So we'll just sort of smooth that out. Oh god, that's terrible. That's a good thing that this is just the basis. We're going to change this back to subdivide collapse. Go to brush mode. Get this all nice and evened out. And we'll sort of like add some nice muscular structure. Get his nice thick legs. We don't really have much reference for his legs, other than the fact that he is like super crazy muscular. So we're going to have to take a lot of artistic freedom here as well. And we can use the inflate brush to sort of inflate this. We can cover up a lot of this disaster with his skirt thing, his man skirt. Like this area. That ass. Anyway, let's go ahead and start sculpting in some detail. Sort of bring that out a bit. So we want a pretty dynamic pose. It's going to be mirrored though, but we can always add a sculpture and unmirror it later. You can always like fake rig it. Let's see. So then sort of bring out these calves. Just sort of get the shape right. He's got like some serious calf muscles here. He has these kneecaps that sort of come out like this into his armor. And that's pretty cool. Sort of bring that out a bit more. Bring up his calf muscles some. This guy did not skip leg day at the gym. Alright, and it looks like this is sort of like a piece of armor. So we'll sort of sculpt this in here like this. And bring that around. Got these nice armored legs. Oh, that's looking pretty terrible. Oh man, it's rough. We're gonna sort of sculpt this in here, give him some bigger thighs. Bring this in. Like I said, the limbs are a hard part, but it's all about just working it until we get it how we like it. Sort of bring that in, sort of thicken up his legs overall. 'Cause this, like I said, this guy did not skip leg day at the gym. And now we're kind of almost getting somewhere. This is more geometrical in shape, so we're going to use our crease brush to sort of get that looking right. Sort of just bring this up, then use the clay brush to fill this in, then smooth it out to get a nice slant. Then use the crease brush again to sort of give this like an actual geometric shape. Then we can use the crease brush some more to actually give this some depth. And then sort of like maybe use the regular brush to actually generate the armor plates here. And now we're getting somewhere. I mean, there's no real good reference for this, unfortunately. But it looks like this actually comes down some, like this, around the kneecap. And this is going to require a lot of smoothing and resculpting here. Now we're starting to get somewhere. We'll get there eventually. It's not a matter of whether we'll get there, it's a matter of how fast we'll get there. Right now, I think the scheduled finish time for this is T-minus 22 years at the rate we're going. But I think we got decent proportions here. That's looking pretty good. Other than maybe this could be inflated some down here without collapsing edges. Yeah, we'll put this just to subdivide, and we'll use the inflate brush. The inflate brush is another one of those brushes that I use fairly often. And then down here, this could all be more geometric, almost like armor. We gotta add these lines in, but then also add these shapes in. Then maybe smooth it all out a bit, just to sort of get the general idea. Maybe bring this up some, smooth it out. That's not looking too shabby. I think we can sort of bring this up some. All right. And like I said, the skirt's going to be covering a lot. I think we'll add that as a separate object just because of how separate it is. And then if I want to get it 3D printed later, which is unlikely since 3D printing can be expensive. Oh, I can use booleans. I've done a lot of 3D printing recently for work. We don't have a 3D printer at work, but we know somebody who has a 3D printer, and we use it a lot. Let's go ahead and add in a skirt just to see what it'll look like. So this will be a, actually what we're going to do is, I have the retopology tools from Blender Cookie. I just don't think they're installed on this computer. Let's see. Log in, username. And Chris Folia, orders and downloads. I'm gonna have to go to the Blender cloud thing. Let's see. For work, I make animated promotional videos for a company. I'll actually post a link here in the chat. Let's see. I'll post the, I guess whatever I can find first. This one, this was a video we made for this Christmas. We had like 1 week to do it. They gave us a really tight deadline, so it's not as good or up to snuff as it could be. But overall, I think it turned out all right. Just could use more detail. Cloud, and I should be logged in. Nope, that is not what I was looking for. Blender Cookie Marketplace, that's what I'm looking for, the Blender Marketplace, because I have stuff there that I can download. And downloads. Poly strips and contours, and I'll shove these under documents, resources. All right, so file, user preferences, add-ons. Install from file, documents, resources, retopology. Oh, I already had it installed. Anyway, check that. Then also install polystrips, and I'll check that. Polystrips we're definitely not going to use right now, but it's neat to have installed. So I'm going to go ahead and select this guy and use contours. And we'll draw a contour right around the waist to generate the start of the skirt. Sort of rotate this around until we get a nice division right close to the center. And I think like maybe 16 edges would be good. Oh shoot. It did not create because I didn't create an actual face, so I'm going to go ahead and draw there, and we'll use that as the basis for our skirt. Just as a starting point. So this will be the skirt sort of thing. Sort of scale that in, generate some nice detail. And we can actually mirror modifier this and cut it straight down the center. And we'll go ahead and turn on the merge, or clipping, there we go. And this needs to actually go before subsurf. Maybe sort of bring this out like this. Make sure that the clipping doesn't occur. And I think that the sides actually come up a bit. Yeah, there's his nice tutu. He's a professional dancer now. But no, in all seriousness, we'll go ahead and add a solidify modifier on top of that and thicken it up a good bit, but in the opposite direction. Maybe like 0.7. And then we can also create some nice sharp edges soon, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so it looks like from this drawing anyway, it sort of comes down in the front and back and then goes up around the sides. Alright, so that's the start to a neato skirt. And we could sort of bring you out like so. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this so I don't screw it up. But we're going to go ahead and generate the polygons to make the sharp edges. And then it might be easiest to do like Shift E over everything, but then there's no point in really having it smooth. So figuring out, okay, that's not going to work. So it might be best just to generate the extra edges. Like so. Yeah, I think that will work method-wise. Although, it would appear as though, when we were doing the legs, we lost some good detail here. But anyway. We've got this nice medallion that comes down on the skirt. The man skirt. Like so. Gonna take the edges and bevel those in a decent amount and maybe add some segments. Then take this Move that in. We've got a nice medallion. And we can sort of bring these edges up to get that sort of nice edge that happens in the anime version. All right. Maybe generate more edges here for spikes. Like so. God, that's a pain in the ass design. So now these all are not going to be very smooth. I don't think it really matters. I think that's looking pretty cool as is. We can probably take these guys, turn on O, move it up a bit. Move this up some. This is just a sculpture, so it doesn't have to be perfect or anything. We can probably move this down some. Doesn't have to be all straight, angular. And then we've got these sort of big areas right here. So we can either try to do that here, and we're gonna have to finish off the skirt eventually. Or we can create new objects for that. I vote new objects because they'll be easier to deal with. So we'll move this to the center, move it down, and then we'll add a mirror modifier. And we'll sort of move this out here. Make it about as small as the skirt. Move you forward like that, move you back like that. Maybe create a subdivision over here. That's looking pretty swell. Then take these guys, move the mountain up like that in the drawing. Make this smooth. Create an edge loop here to make that nice hard edge. Like so. And now we've sort of got this nice little area. We can probably add one more edge loop here. Ignore the ends. Ignore the bottom. But just sort of bring that up like that. And that's looking pretty cool. I think we can bring the skirt overall down some. It is like a skirt, so it doesn't have to be like perfectly angular or anything like that, even though it looks like it's probably stone or wood or something. And then we'll go ahead and create the little angle pieces, which I think no one's even going to really pay attention to the back, so we can sort of just create that pretty low res. And again, it's not like this is even going to be rigged or anything, so it doesn't have to be perfect. If we were rigging it, this would be a whole different story. Maybe we'll rig it later, who knows. We can actually add an edge loop here, just so we can sort of pull this out a little bit. And we're going to want to bring this in. And clean that up a little bit. And that's not too shabby. Yeah, not too shabby at all. Maybe even bring all of this down just a little bit. Like so. We can sculpt this up a little bit. Use the clay to sort of fill this in a bit. And that's looking pretty neat. I think this is a good stopping point for tonight. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. It's always good to hear from you, man. And best of luck with whatever projects you are working on. But I think that will conclude the stream for now. Have a fantastic night. And if I do post this on YouTube, make sure everybody you like, subscribe, whatever.